Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States. And
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everyone is having an amazing Monday. We are going to get right into it today because we are going to finish up with McCreepenstein. We're going to begin his last day of testimony. We have a couple different things going on this lovely day. One of them is his roommate. And the other one is some more evidence maps, pictures, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're gonna say hello. I'm flying solo tonight, so it's gonna be just me. But let's say hello and get into it because I would like to get this done tonight. The actual testimony, and then next week will be the closing argument, sentencing, all that good stuff. So everything wrapped up into one to close it out. It is ketchup time, Bobby. I hope you have your wiener ready. Dazer, what's up, buddy? What's up, Amazing Disgrace? Hey, Digger. Yep, Creepmaster 300. Shenny, hello, hello. What's up, Jacob? How you doing, buddy? I know. Everybody did, but you just get me tonight. So be happy with what you have, not what you could. Because we all know you could do better. No. Yeah. So let's without further ado, let's get right into it. We're starting with the roommate, Mr. Michael McCracken. Good name.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Help you God? Yes. Please have a seat, sir. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask. Please speak into the microphone.
State your name for the record, please.
Michael McCracken.
Mr. McCracken, where do you live?
North Bethesda, Maryland.
And did you at one time live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Yes.
When did you live?
Sorry, if you could speak up.
I was kidding when I said his roommate was cheese, but this is cheese. 100%. If I get permission from cheese, I'll put a side-by-side up so you can see. This is 100% cheese.
Oh, a little bit. Sorry.
When did you live there?
When I was in college, so 2006 through 2015.
Did you know the defendant, Joel Michael Guy?
Yes.
How did you know him?
We went to high school together and college together, and we were roommates off and on through that time.
All right. When were you in high school together? What year? 2004
through 2006.
And after 2006, I take it you entered LSU. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did Mr. Guy also enter LSU at that time?
No, he went to George Washington University for, I think, a semester.
Okay. And did he come back to Baton Rouge?
Yes.
When did he come back?
I think at the end of the first semester.
Would that be 2007?
Yeah.
Okay. And did he attend LSU?
Yes.
Now, I take it because you were roommates for some period of time, you knew him,
mm-hmm.
and you know his voice.
Yes.
And you could recognize his voice on a telephone call. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you receive a telephone call from him on or about December the 10th of 2016?
Yes.
And where were you living at that time?
Where I live now, in North Bethesda.
All right. And have you had an opportunity to review that telephone call?
Yes.
And is that your voice on the call?
Yes.
And is it his voice on the call?
Yes.
Brenda, please, at this time, we would
They both live in Maryland.
ask to introduce the exhibits 732. We're not going to play the call in its entirety, just portions of it. And we would ask to introduce 731 for identification only because that's the entire call.
Okay.
There are actually two calls, is that right? One conversation but broken up into two calls.
Mm-hmm.
Have we already marked these, General?
Yes.
Okay. No, it's, I was just, when I do one for ID, I like to do like 731 and then I do 731A for ID. But if you've already marked them, it's okay. Let's do, if you don't mind. Just it keeps me from getting confused, and I need all the help I can get. So 731 will be the actually what we play, and 731A will just be for ID only. So, folks, you've heard me say this before. Certain exhibits will say that's for ID only. It means that that particular exhibit is an exhibit to the trial, but it's not in evidence. It just helps us keep the record. So what's in evidence is Exhibit 731. You don't need to concern yourself with 731A. All right.
We're just going to play the first couple of seconds, Judge, to identify the date and
Okay.
time.
Two, inmate ID number 117861292. Inmate ID 16001131119. Date 2016 12/10. Time 1145112. Dialed number 1-337-274-4553 from station 3104. Press 1 for English. Oprima el 2. The time is 11:45 a.m. Press 1 to place a... Please enter your PIN number.
I'm never going to get in, so I'll just cut it. Hey, Scad. Yep. I try and stream whenever, so. But good to see you. And I saw AP2. There he is. What's up, buddy?
After the tone,
we genuinely had a very, very realistic chance of being happy if I got around to doing that.
Yes. Yes.
Only two parties to this conversation.
Correct.
Jerome, before you continue on, folks, I want to point something out to you. You'll see words at the bottom. That is a typed transcript. It is not in evidence in this case. What is in evidence is actually the call itself. What the words you're reading are actually something that some administrative assistant sat down and listened to and typed it up. And it's what the lawyers think is being said, and it's there to help you follow along. But I
Love you,
want to be
terrified me, but I
clear
love you.
that those words are not in evidence. So if you hear something different
What's up,
on that
Neil?
call than what you see typed, you're to disregard what you see is typed there and go with what your ears are telling you, because that's actually the evidence. All right, John, you may continue.
Well, I've pretty much fucked everything up. I don't really have much of a chance of being happy anymore. But you do. You do. Eventually, you're going to need some bucking. And you claim that I haven't been an albatross or anything before. may do that with a lawyer because I genuinely do want you to be happy.
No, they didn't. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear, but
And that's pretty much the end of my outburst. So there you go.
basically what he said from the transcript was you should just consider him dead, and the bakery they were going to open, forget about it. So.
I mean, I don't know that there is anything to say. I'm at here, and there's a, tell me I'm a fucking idiot. Tell me, why did I do this? Blah, blah, blah. How could you, I mean, just have stream of consciousness about anything and everything related or not. Anything I just said. I just did word vomit at you just now. So, I mean, word vomit at something real. It hurts my heart. All of it. I mean, I've been my best friend for my entire adult life. I don't know that that would ever have changed regardless of what you did. I wasn't news.
1 minute remaining.
Oh, shit.
Boy doesn't know how to boil soup.
I mean, I'm not fully surprised. I don't know. I don't know what to say. All of that aside, I am angry and lost and confused and disappointed and upset and mourning you like your day. You know, I'm talking to you on the phone and I don't. It's taking everything I have to process and maintain my sanity. I mean, that is the biggest thing here is that I think of you all the time. You were the only good thing in my life. All the crap in the apartment. You're the only thing on this?
And there was a second call right after that, is that correct?
Yes.
Publish that second part of the same conversation.
Okay. Yeah, God. Her date went through August, so it's not like the manager's going to be throwing my shit on the street anytime soon. Man, how did you manage that? That's a lot of money. Yeah. One of the last things I did was pay that. So. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McCracken. Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
I think for sure he's part of the LGBTQIA plus two-hearted three duct lollipop guild. I could be wrong.
Could I have 1 second, Judge, please?
But that sounded awfully like more than friends
I'm
to
not
me.
sure I heard. Where do you work? What do you do?
I do vaccine research for the Army.
Oh, of
And
course he
where
does.
are you employed?
Sorry, we weren't able to hear that. Can you
Oh,
answer that? Speak
sorry.
up a little.
I do vaccine research for the Army.
And where are you employed?
City or place?
Place, the entity.
Walter Reed Army Institute of Research.
And how long have you been there?
Since 2015,
And what is your educational background? What degree do you hold?
PhD,
In,
veterinary and biomedical sciences.
let me back up a little bit. You said you first met Joel when you were in high school, is that right?
Veterinary.
Correct.
So you
And
can use.
You both were attending a
Never
boarding
mind. I
school.
won't say that.
Correct.
What was the name of that school?
Louisiana School for Math, Science.
Hey,
and
man,
Arts.
bun.
And it was for exceptional students, right?
Correct.
And that was somewhere around 2005, 2006. Do I have that right?
Correct.
And so you have known, and you left, you moved away from Baton Rouge to Maryland in 2015.
15.
Okay. So So you knew him for a total of about 10 years or so.
Yes.
And for a period of time when you were in high school, you were his roommate.
Yes.
And then you got back together. You graduated. Let me see, you went to Baton Rouge a year before he did. Is that correct?
Got back together.
I think it was only one semester, but I couldn't
Okay.
be sure.
And that was the semester he went to GW? Is that
Yes.
Okay. And then after that semester, he moved back to the same apartment complex you were
Yes.
in Baton Rouge. And you shortly after that, your roommate left and went to Greece, I believe.
Yes.
And the two of you, you and Joel, moved in together.
Yes.
So probably, is it fair to say that maybe for at least half of that 10 years, you've been his roommate?
Sure.
Know him pretty well.
Yeah.
I think you described him as your best friend during that period of time.
Yes.
It's better than that.
And that, his parents lived in Luling. Is that right? Luling, Louisiana?
Yes.
How far is Luling from Baton Rouge?
About an hour, maybe.
And during that 10-year period of time, did you ever meet his father?
No.
And during that same 10-year period of time, did you meet his mother?
Once.
And did you have any interactions with her for that 10 years other than that one time?
No.
And you had no interactions with his father?
Correct.
And am I correct? You didn't even know he had sisters.
Correct.
So at no time when you guys were living in Baton Rouge, did any of the family come and visit?
Correct.
And did you ever see mail come to the apartment from any of the family members?
No.
Presents?
No.
Phone calls?
He would get calls from his mother.
All right. Anybody but his mother?
I'm not aware of them.
All right. You described Joel as being socially awkward. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And as I think you've described him as he got older after high school, he became more and more isolated and withdrawn.
Yes.
And he would go into his room at time for days. Is that right?
Yes.
And he would kind of escape on his computer. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you said that he spent an awful lot of time on the internet and YouTube and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And you said, I believe you've stated that there were weeks where you would just barely see him at all.
Right.
And did you know him to have any friends?
When we were in high school and early college.
And did you see in the later years, at least the last 3 or 4 years that you were together in Baton Rouge, did you see that tail off?
Yes.
By the time you left Baton Rouge, would you say that he had any friends at all?
No.
So was he socially interacting with anyone but you?
No.
And your interactions with him were becoming less and less. Is that accurate?
Correct.
I want to ask you a little bit. During the period of time that you knew him, did you know that he regularly, did you know him to regularly go home for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
And I believe you said that he would
Yes,
alternate
he did.
Christmas.
Yes.
And as far as
Yes,
you
he
knew
did.
or remember, those were the only times that he would go home.
Yeah. He went to Luling for New Year's once, I think. But yes.
Okay. And you did know that he was going to Thanksgiving. He was going home for Thanksgiving in 2016, right?
Yes.
And let me see. I think I have this right. His parents moved from Luling to Knoxville. Do you know the year they moved?
No idea.
Okay. All right. But you know that in 2016 they were in Knoxville,
Yes.
and you knew that he was going to Knoxville for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
In fact, he reached out to you. He contacted you from Knoxville in 2016.
Yes.
May I have just a moment, please? Mr. McCracken, thank you.
I think we're going to need to approach.
There's a poll up for how you find people, so we can get an idea on. What's up, Chloe? He is the defendant. Yeah, Creepmaster 3000. He killed his
Folks, this
parents
issue that's,
and boiled his
come up is
mother's
one
head.
That's going to require me to hear a little bit more lengthy arguments from the attorneys. It's a lot easier for me to do that if you're not here in the room instead of standing over here. So I'm going to send you back to the jury room for a moment. Please do not discuss this case among yourselves with anyone else. You can leave your notebooks and chairs. I'll see you here in a few minutes.
Kind of seems like this guy was an airline pilot at one time, this judge. Just saying.
You can stay right there, Mr. Cracken.
Clarice answers in chat. I have a great chat. Something's wrong with them, but great chat.
Okay, folks, you have a seat. All right, John, your argument.
My argument is that the defense has opened up an issue concerning whether or not Mr. Guy's parents essentially abandoned him and his family ignored him. And he was isolated and nobody sent him packages or sent him letters. When the state has multiple witnesses who could testify that it was Mr. Guy's choice to isolate himself from his family, that in fact we have received information from Lisa Guy's brother that the defendant's relatives in Louisiana were not even permitted to know where he lived. He didn't want any interaction with his family.
Maybe
his sisters did not choose to not have a relationship with him. He didn't want a relationship with them. And while it's true that he went to this boarding school, I think further proof would be, if it was relevant at all, that it was a 2-year program and that he was there by choice. So to construe this as somebody who was abandoned by his family is a real stretch. I'm kind of concerned because, the only issue for this witness was to authenticate this telephone call, and I don't want to stray into character evidence, but I think they've raised it. So I would like to be able to ask Mr. McCracken questions about whether or not Mr. Guy's parents supported him, whether or not they provided him with financial support, and whether or not he, during part of this conversation on December the 12th, expressed surprise that he didn't know the defendant had sisters. The defendant had never told him he had sisters, despite the fact that they had known each other for at least 10 years. And the only way that Mr. McCracken found out about that was when he read the media in the paper. And the surprise and shock and dismay in his voice struck me at the time. He was incredulous that he didn't know this about somebody that he had lived with. So to construe this situation as something
Michael McCracken.
The defendant was abandoned by his family.
What's up, Jason?
Gross mischaracterization of really what was going on. Again, I don't want to be calling in witnesses just to talk about extraneous things that really stray from the real issue here. But I do think that at a minimum, I should be able to ask Mr. McCracken about his knowledge of his family and, the level of care and support that his mother provided for him.
All right. Mr. Stevens, would you like to be heard on that issue?
Well, her interpretation of what Mr. McCracken's answers mean, or her interpretations of what they mean. The fact is, he lived with him for 10 years and he never saw communication come in from the family member. What that means, whether he drove them away or whether the family chose to stay away, is subject to her interpretation of what it was. There's nothing that he said that was inaccurate. or false in terms of the nature of the relationship and what he knew about his mother and what he knew about his father and how many times he saw the two of them over a 10-year period and whether he knew that he had sisters or not. I mean, that's all accurate information. And what she does with that, she does with that.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that it is a proper.
This judge is so horrible.
To explore his personal knowledge.
He's so
about
middle of
whether
the
or not
road
his
on
mother,
everything.
His being the defendant's mother was supporting him, and if he knew why they weren't in closer contact, if he knew that he had sisters or not. So I think you can explore with Mr. McCracken his personal knowledge, if he has any. And then if you want to present other witnesses, and it's your choice, General, if you want to pursue this issue.
Yeah, he was absolutely hiding in his room.
I'm not sure about
and
that. And there's nothing
probably wasn't
terrible
entirely
in that
truthful.
phone call. I just think a lot of it's irrelevant. I guess the parts that have to do when Mr. Guy is talking about his family, I guess that part would be appropriate for this.
He's a loner, and he
sure
got more of a
there's
loner as he went
a
on.
whole lot in there other than what you've already played on that. I guess I remember there was the part about the surprise. I didn't know you had sisters. Sure.
Yes, man bun. He does look like Mr. Burns from The
Playing the
Simpsons.
tape to hear him
Talks
say,
like him,
I
too.
didn't know he had sisters is exactly what he said on cross. I didn't know he had sisters.
Yeah, I think you got to ask him first. Did you know? And if he doesn't remember, you could ask him. Did you express surprise on the call? I think we need to ask him about it before we play anything to either refresh his memory or impeachment.
Mr. Stevens can take the position that he didn't open this up to. It's not my construction. It's the false construction that the defense is trying to place on this situation. So
I didn't hear Mr. Stevens saying that the door hasn't been opened. I think what he's saying is I don't think this witness has personal knowledge of some of these issues, like whose choice was it that they didn't have contact. Now that the issue has been opened by the defense, I think you can bring in evidence that it was his choice if you have that evidence, but I'm not sure Mr. McCracken knows that. Maybe he does, and I'll let you explore it on redirect if you'd like. All right, you ready for the jury? Ready, Mr. Stevens?
I thought I had excellent, Jason, but I can't find it, so I probably took it off for something else from Mr. Burns. That was a real first point of contention this entire trial, though. The defense has just been kind of monitoring, making sure the prosecution didn't overstep, and that was really their first disagreement this entire trial. They've been pretty cordial, so. And it didn't seem like it from that exchange, so.
Well, you may be seated. Does the state weigh the call? Defense weigh the call? Welcome back, folks. Mr. McCracken, I understand you're still on oath, sir? All right, redirect.
thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. McCracken, did you know whether or not Jill, the defendant, had sisters prior to this telephone conversation that you had with him?
Prior to the news article that I was told about, no.
Okay, so he had never told you in all the years that you knew each other that he had 3 sisters.
Correct.
And did you express surprise and shock that he had never bothered to tell you that?
Yes.
And with respect to the notion that you never met his dad or never met his mother, do you know if that was his choice?
No.
Do you know whether or not he was ashamed of his mother?
That's a weird question.
No.
Weird answer.
Did you have a conversation with him about what you thought his mother did for a living?
Yes.
And what was that conversation?
Oh, he is a bear.
He said that she was an optometrist.
Okay. And did you ask him about that during this phone call that you had with him in December of 2016?
I think so.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't remember
And,
100%.
did you learn that from your news from your review of news reports that she was not, in fact, an optometrist.
Yes,
And you discussed that with him on this phone call, didn't you?
probably yes.
Okay. And you didn't ask him why he told you that when that wasn't really what she did for a living?
I honestly don't remember,
Okay.
but I would not be surprised if I asked that.
Okay. And you don't remember his response?
No,
Okay. Now, do you know whether or not his mother, you say that she called him, you know that he corresponded with his mom, is that right?
yes,
And do you know whether or not she provided him support?
yes,
And did she provide him with support?
yes.
Did you ever know Mr. Guy to have a job during the time that you knew him?
Not a paid one.
Okay. Is it
What?
true that the only time you knew him to work was when he had sort of a little internship? So,
Yes,
okay, sort of a part-time thing.
it was a summer research program.
Okay. So his parents, his mother at least,
Mhm.
provided him. She was his sole means of support.
Yes.
Okay. So he had an apartment
Mhm.
and a car.
Yep.
And she was paying his utilities
Yes.
and all of his bills.
Yes.
Okay. And this notion that he was isolated and withdrawn, is it your understanding that that was something that he didn't want, or was that of his choosing?
I would say the latter.
That it was his choosing?
Yes.
He liked to spend time by himself.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like that. Would you not agree?
Yes.
Some people who like just to be on their own. Okay. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Reed Ross. Thank you, Mr. McCracken. You're free to go. Have
Thank
a good
you.
trip home.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Agent Kim Lowe with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
We didn't really gain much information from that, honestly. I guess we got the revelation that he's probably not very truthful, and kind of a loner. But I don't think it helped the murder case at all. But maybe, I don't know.
Division 2's on that side. We're on this side. You can go ahead and put your stuff down if you like. I'll swear you in. All right, Special Agent, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony I'm about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask to testify.
Should probably end the poll.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
I agree with the
Agent
poll.
Forensic Scientist Kim Lowe.
And I
80%
will ask you to
lover,
speak up a
20%
little bit.
friend.
You're very soft-spoken, and where are you employed?
I'm employed at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, a Knoxville Crime Laboratory in the Forensic Biology Unit.
And what do you do there?
I work cases for the presence of bodily fluids, saliva, semen, or blood. I get a profile, and then I go ahead and process it for DNA to get a profile of a forensic sample and compare it to a known sample.
So you're a serologist. Is that accurate, or?
Forensic scientist does serology and DNA analysis.
Okay. Tell the jury a little bit about your educational background and your employment background.
I have a Bachelor of Arts in Biology from Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania, a Master of Arts in Anthropology from the University of Albany in New York, and then I've had a year and a half of in-house training working cases that are pertinent to each stage of our analysis.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in DNA analysis in the Tennessee courts?
Yes, I have.
How many times have you testified as an expert?
About 27.
Okay. And are you called to court today to discuss findings related to this particular case, State versus Joel Michael Guy?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Brenda, please, we would tender Agent Lowe as an expert in the area of forensic serology and DNA analysis.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the court is going to recognize Special Agent Lowe as an expert in the area of serology and DNA analysis. and that she is allowed to render her opinion within her particular area of expertise. Also, once again, just because an expert witness renders
I agree, man bun.
not bound to accept it. It's your job, the judge,
And you would know.
to speak of her testimony, but since she is deemed an
You
expert,
would
she
know.
can render her opinion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Agent Lowe, how many reports did you prepare in this particular case?
I have
Allegedly.
3 reports.
Right. And I would like to just as a prologue, just if you could just give the jury a little idea of what you do when you receive evidence. What is, just for practical purposes, what do you do?
So again, I process the evidence for presence of bodily fluids, semen, saliva, or blood. And then I go ahead and generate a DNA profile. So I'll extract the DNA. So I'll take the DNA off of the item it's on, figure out how much DNA I have, and then go ahead and look for the 25 locations that we are going to produce a profile for. And then when I have that profile, I'll use that to compare to known standards.
Okay. Can you tell the jury what that involves? I mean, you receive evidence from a law enforcement agency, right?
The lab actually have evidence receiving technicians who will receive the evidence from the agencies. And when it's been put into the computer with a unique laboratory case number, I will then ask for the evidence technicians to give me the evidence for this case.
Okay. And with respect to the first report that you prepared, can you discuss what evidence
He
you
says
received
Windows.
related to the report that was issued on March the 13th of 2018?
I received blue gloves from the kitchen counter, clothing at the top of the stairs, scissors from top of stairs, kitchen gloves from the master bathroom, towel from guest bedroom, items from hallway bathroom, item GG, items from hallway bathroom counter, item KK, known blood standard from Joel Guy Sr., Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, guest eyeglass case with glasses from Lisa Guy, right hand fingernail clippings and left hand fingernail clippings with clippers from Joel Guy Sr., swabs from glove from hallway bathroom, item KK, swabs from area by gate, swabs from exercise room wall, swabs from SS knife, swabs from TT knife, swabs from HH knife blade,
From a TT knife?
swabs from HH knife handle, swabs from HH handle away from blade, and then known buccal swabs from Joel Guy Jr.
All right. Now, when you make reference to swabs from SS knife or TT knife or HH knife, are you referring to the evidence markers that were placed in there by law enforcement? Is that how they're identified?
I don't know. I actually went off the submittal form, and that's what they wrote on the submittal form.
Okay. So that's how they were identified by law enforcement officers for you.
Yes.
Okay. And you're relying upon their notations for the way you describe it in your report. Is that accurate?
Yes, because I don't know what those knives were.
Right. Okay. Now, when you describe a little bit about what you did once you received the buccal swabs from the defendant and the Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy and the known blood standard from Joel Guy Sr., what did you do? How do you prepare a DNA profile from these things?
On those items of evidence, for the standards, the blood standard and the buccal swabs, I go ahead and cut a sample. And from the Oral-B toothbrush, I cut a sample from the bristles. And I go ahead and extract them individually, which pulls the evidence off of the swabs or the standard or the bristles from the toothbrush. And then I create a profile from it.
Okay. Now, with respect to some of these articles of evidence, is it fair to say that you didn't test everything that was submitted to you?
That is correct.
Okay. And can you tell the jury a little bit about what helps you make a decision on what
It did.
items are likely to produce evidentiary results for you?
So we look at the evidence, the narrative that is handed to us by the agencies, and then go ahead and try to figure out what questions need to be answered. And then I'll work evidence that are probative to answering those questions.
Okay. And can you just go through your report and discuss your findings as to each exhibit that you identified in your report?
1A, the blue gloves from the kitchen counter. No examination was performed at this time. Contents were not verified. 2A.
What does that mean?
That means I
contents.
didn't open the package. I didn't mark the item of evidence.
Okay.
2A, clothing at the top of the stairs. Again, I didn't mark that item of evidence.
And can you explain why you did not?
At the time, the blue gloves from the kitchen counter, I think, were actual not from what I got from the officer, were not nitrile gloves. They were gloves that were actually could be in the kitchen and be used at any time by any individual. And the clothing at the top of the stairs was, I believe I was told it would belong to Lisa Guy, but it didn't seem to have any evidence to get possible blood off of her clothing to match back to her. It didn't seem to answer the question.
So, I mean, you expected to find her blood, but not necessarily DNA from another source. Is that accurate?
It would be hard to find somebody else's blood swamped by a lot of somebody else's blood.
Okay, very well. Now, with respect to item 3A,
3A, scissors from top of stairs. I did 3 different areas of the knife, of the scissors, sorry. The blade, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 3 individuals, where at least one is male. Exhibits 8A, Joel Guy Sr., and 8N, Joel Guy Jr., are consistent with being contributors to this major contributor profile.
so I guess just in layman terms, you found DNA belonging to Joel Guy Sr. and the defendant on the blade of the scissors found at the top of the stairs. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yes, it was a mixture between the 2 of them.
Okay. A
The
mixture of
probability-
2. A mixture of both. Is that
That is correct.
okay?
The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a contributor to this DNA mixture is approximately 1 in 1,773 trillion for the African American population and 1 in 3,815 billion for the Caucasian population, 1 in 7,752 billion for the Southwestern Hispanic population. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation of the minor contributor is deemed to be inconclusive.
Okay.
The handle, the non-stained area of the handle, the DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 3 individuals, where at least one is male. Due to the unknown number of potential contributors to the profile, this profile is available for exclusionary purposes
What's
only.
up, Diggs, BTW?
Exhibits 8A, Joel
Seven
Guy
over
Sr.,
on
8N, Joel Guy Jr.,
Twitch.
and 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, are inconclusive due to the complexity of the mixture. Stain from the handle of the scissors. Presumptive tests indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor to the profile matches the profile from 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for the African American, Caucasian, and Southwestern Hispanic populations. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation of the minor contributor profile is inconclusive.
Okay. So from this stain on the handle of the scissors, you found the presence of a component of human blood, and you found Lisa Guy's DNA on that particular part of the exhibit. Is that correct?
She's the stronger contributor to that profile.
Okay. And the rest of it, and I'm trying to dumb it down so that I can understand it. And so if my language is very elementary, please excuse me. I'm just trying to process it so that I understand it. You didn't have enough sample, I suppose, to make a conclusion about the unknown male contributor. Is that fair to say?
From which area of the?
The stain from the handle.
I wasn't able to identify the minor contributor, no.
Okay. Right. Not enough DNA to make it to
Comparison.
match it. Okay, very well.
4A, 5A, and 6A, which are kitchen gloves from the master bathroom, towel from the guest bedroom, and items from hallway bathroom, item GG, I didn't open or work.
And was that for the same reasons that you didn't, you made a decision not to test the other items?
Wait, Jill
These are the
tested.
kitchen
Joe
gloves.
Biden
The
tested
towel from the
positive for
guest
tooth.
bedroom was in the area he was staying. I wasn't expecting not to find him on it. And the items from the hallway bathroom were similar to the items from 7A, So I'd only worked one set of them.
Okay. So with respect to 7A, items from the hallway bathroom counter, what were your findings?
I originally worked one circular piece of medical tape. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The profile obtained matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. I then analyzed 6 gloves separately. These 6 gloves had RBS stains on them, so I went ahead and analyzed the stain on the glove and then the non-stain side of the glove.
So can you explain the difference, stain side, non-stain, for me?
So a regular typical nitrile glove has 2 sides, but they're not identifiable. So one side on the glove actually had RBS, had a reddish brown stain on it, and the other, so I took that and worked that stain, and then on the opposite side, so that if you inverted the glove, the inside portion would be the non-stained area.
Okay.
She's not great at
glove one,
testifying.
The side that had the stain on it. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from 2 individuals where at least one is male. The major contributor to the profile matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than those 3 population groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation was inconclusive. Same glove, the non-stained side area. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from 2 individuals where at least one is male. The major contributor matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive.
So one of the gloves found in the upstairs hall bathroom had the defendant's DNA on the stain side and the non-stain side. Is that
That's correct.
correct? Okay. Now with respect to glove number 2,
The stain side of glove number 2, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. The non-stained side of that glove, the DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals where 1 is male. The major contributor to the profile matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is one in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. Due to limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive.
so with respect to glove 2, the defendant's DNA was found on both the stain side and the non-stain side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please continue.
Glove 3 has 2 different stains that I took through separately. Stain 1, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from 2 individuals where at least 1 is male. The major contributor matches the profile obtained from Exhibit 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for the African American, Caucasian, and Southwestern Hispanic populations. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, the profile is deemed to be inconclusive. The second stain from glove 3, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals. The major contributor matches the profile obtained from Exhibit 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive. The non-stained side of glove 3, the DNA profile obtained matches Exhibit 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. An additional allele was obtained at 1 location. Due to this limited information, it is deemed to be inconclusive.
Okay, so with respect to glove 3, you found 2 blood stains and you found that Lisa Guy's DNA matched the stain portions of the 2 stain portions of glove 3, correct?
Correct.
And you found the defendant's DNA on the non-stain side.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, with respect to glove 4,
Glove 4 also had 2 additional RBS stains on them. Stain 1, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. The second stain on the glove 4, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. The non-stain side of glove 4, the DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals where at least 1 is male. The major contributor to the profile matches exhibit 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive.
So with respect to glove 4, you found the defendant's blood, his DNA on 2 stains, and also found his DNA on the non-stain side for glove 4. Is that right?
That's correct.
And with respect to glove 5?
Glove 5, the stain side, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. Non-stained area of glove 5. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals where at least 1 is male. The major contributor to the profile matches exhibit 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, our interpretation is inconclusive.
And with respect to glove 5, it's fair to say you found the defendant's DNA on the stain and the non-stain side of the glove.
That is correct.
And with respect to glove 6?
Glove 6, stain side, presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. The non-stain side of glove 6. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals where at least 1 is male. The major contributor profile matches 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile from the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, our interpretation is deemed to be inconclusive.
Okay, so with respect to glove 6, on the stain side, you found the defendant's DNA, and on the non-stain side, you found Lisa Guy's DNA.
That is correct.
All right. If you could just continue on through your report, please.
8A is the known blood standard from Joel Guy Jr. I was able to get a complete profile from. 8B was the Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, which I also got a complete profile from, so I used that as her standard. 8C, the DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from 2 individuals, so I was not able to use the glasses as her standard.
Okay.
8D is the right-hand fingernail clippings from Joel Guy Sr.
Did you have any findings with respect to the fingernail clippings from the right hand of Joel Guy Sr.?
The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals where at least 1 is male. Exhibits 8A, Joel Guy Sr., and 8N, Joel Guy Jr. are consistent with being contributors to this mixture. Exhibit 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, is excluded as a contributor. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who be included as a contributor to the DNA mixture profile is approximately 1 in 368 quadrillion 900 trillion for the African American population, 1 in 258 trillion for the Caucasian population, and 1 in 444 trillion for the Southwestern Hispanic population. An additional allele was obtained at one location. Due to this limited information, it is deemed to be inconclusive.
So the defendant's DNA was found on somewhere on his father's right fingernails. Correct?
On his fingernail clippings on his right
Clippings.
hand.
Right. And with respect to Exhibit 8E,
8E is the left-hand fingernail clippings. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor profile is consistent with 8A, Joel Guy Sr., who is an assumed contributor to the profile. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation was inconclusive.
okay. And 8F,
8F were swabs from glove from hallway bathroom. I did not work that because I actually had the glove in the previous in Exhibit 7A.
okay. And with respect to 8G,
8G, swabs from area by gate. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained matches 8N Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups.
okay. So the defendant's blood is on the swab from the area by the gate.
Yes.
Okay. 8H,
Swabs from exercise room wall. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor to the profile matches Exhibit 8A, Joel Guy Sr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive.
okay. And next,
8I, swabs from SS knife. Presumptive test did not indicate the presence of blood.
okay. And 8J,
J, swabs from TT knife. Presumptive test did not indicate the presence of blood.
8K,
Swabs from HH knife blade. Presumptive test did not indicate the presence of blood.
all right. And 8L,
Swabs from HH knife handle. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor to the profile matches Exhibit 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation is inconclusive.
so the defendant's DNA is found on the handle of knife HH.
Yes.
All right. 8M,
M, swabs from HH handle away from blade. Presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. Further testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor to the profile matches Exhibit 8N, Joel Guy Jr. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than
I'm
the
here.
current world
I'm
population
just,
for those 3 groups. Due to the limited minor
this is a
contributor
bad
profile obtained,
witness.
interpretation is inconclusive.
so you also found the defendant's
I'm
DNA
just
on
kinda
another
zoning.
portion of the HH knife handle.
As the major contributor, correct.
8N,
8N was the
I
known
think it
butyl
was
swabs from Joel
4,
Guy Jr.
if I
was
don't-
able to obtain a complete profile.
now did you take photographs of some of these articles of evidence that you
And yeah,
I did.
Dad did fight back
please,
100%. So
this time we
there
would
were
like to introduce as our
wounds on his hands,
next number of
defensive
collective
wounds.
exhibit, Agent Lowe's report and photographs.
Plus, when you have a TT knife, there's nothing else to say.
Okay. All right. And before I turn this in, do you think, Agent Lowe, you could come down and we can use this document camera to project some of these photos? Is that,
That's fine. I'm going to
can
have
they
to.
hear her?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Do you think they'll be able to hear her?
That's what my concern is. I might be able to get that defense mic over there. Let's try it. All right, Agent, if you don't mind putting your mask back on, I'm going to have you step down to the projector and see if we can.
Oh, COVID theater, and I will be back soon, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I'll need to speak into that pretty closely. So we've got folks in the back, and they'll let me know if we can.
So this is my exhibit 3A.
Hold on a second. Let me pull this audio. All right, go ahead. Let me see if they can hear that.
This is my exhibit 3A. So scissors from top of the stairs. This is my serology form that I fill out. And
Hold on a second. That I don't think we're getting it loud enough there, and maybe because of the mask. So, I think what we're gonna have to do is let you control the documents and have her come back to the witness stand. All right, I'm gonna have you come back to the witness stand.
Stupid.
She can do it on the screen if she needs to.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. You just can describe the contents of this.
If you can see it on there.
so this is the exhibit 3A. It's the serology sheet I fill out when I'm get an item of evidence. I describe the outside of the box, then I describe what's inside the box, and below is the actual testing that I did on this exhibit.
I've never seen a judge
So this is
get up the
one of
bench
the few
that much,
pages I took of
go up in a
the
courtroom and
scissors.
hand pocket knives to the witness.
The little
Yeah,
red
he's
lines are
different.
indicated.
He's a
what
different
is
judge.
TBP positive,
That's for
so
sure.
Presumptive positive for the presence of blood.
I thought he's been kind of
It's presumptive
Middle of the
positive
road,
for the presence
but-
of blood.
he's laid back at least. That's for sure.
So more pictures for the little red lines that are on there from the blade, and then on the handle of the scissors indicate the presumptive positive for presence of blood. This is the handle of the scissors. I'm showing, again, the red shows the presumptive positive for the presence of blood. And the bottom picture is what I actually swabbed
What's up,
for,
Oz? How you doing, buddy?
DNA analysis for the stain on the handle.
We can
of the
only hope.
scissors.
We can only hope.
I'm sorry, I did not.
Appear to be more staining in that area.
It just
I
may
hope
have been
Joe-
heavier.
Takes a nap as well. On the beach in Delaware in the sun.
So two more areas that were presumptive positive for the presence of blood, portion on the blade and then portion where the scissors connect. This is the portion of the blade that is, again, presumptive positive for the presence of blood, and I swabbed this for the stain on the blade of the scissors.
I didn't hear anything, Jason. Nothing at all. It was a figment of my imagination.
I'm just going to show you the worksheet. This corresponds to 7A, I think. Is that right?
So 7A, when I originally received 7A, it was a brown paper bag that had all those items of evidence on the top loosely placed in there. And then on the bottom, I had another brown paper bag within that brown paper bag that had other stuff in it.
Alcohol?
So you removed all of the items from the bag.
Yes.
More
This
description.
this is more of description was on the other page. This is where I did my testing on. So my blood testing was on this page.
Show you page 16 of this exhibit.
This is what I designated my samples for the DNA analysis process on each of those gloves.
And does this next photograph show you basically the condition or what was the contents of the bag?
So the first part of the top part of that picture shows what was in the bag itself. So all the stuff on the top portion was what was loose in the bag, and then that one brown bag was what was with it, and below that picture is what was in that brown bag.
Huh.
And under these, we'll both fit.
So within that small brown bag, in the bigger brown bag this was part of that collection of evidence, and this was a Band-Aid that looked like it was wrapped around something, and I tested it for the presumptive positive of blood, and then I took that and swabbed the whole thing for DNA analysis.
And you discussed 6 gloves that you examined, correct?
I examined 6 because they had evidence of the reddish brown stain on them. So those are the gloves as I numbered them, and I've circled in red the presumptive positive for blood stains.
Exactly.
So this is showing glove 6 on the top and glove 1 on the bottom. It's where I circled for what I circled and where I designated what was cut for DNA analysis. This is glove 3. It's showing the 2 stains. One looks like it's on the thumb and the other one's on the pinky finger. I took those through separately for DNA analysis.
Anybody who demands a title like that is insensitive. Now, from now on, you can call me
Glove
Doctor
4 had 2
MightyMeat.
stains. Again, this is showing where I cut them for, or swabbed them for DNA, the stain in the
Not
portion
insensitive.
of the thumb area, and it looks
Fuck.
like the
What
middle
word am I
finger
looking
area.
for? Insecure. There you go.
This is showing an overall of glove 5 where the stain was, and then I circled it on the bottom, and that's what I tested and cut for DNA.
You may.
So sorry. So glad it wasn't me that put that. Waiting to do that for 36 years.
What the hell did they just drop? I didn't see it.
Show you what has previously been marked or previously introduced into evidence as Exhibit 467. And ask you if you
God, he's such a little fucking weasel.
I do. It has the lab number, unique identifying lab number on it. It's got my exhibit
I
number
just
on
need
it.
to
It
cut the
has
glove
my
to
initials
test
on
for
it. So
DNA.
it's
Just
still sealed
test
with
the
my
glove.
initials down here.
Yeah,
It's
I would
exhibit
think so.
My 7A.
So that corresponds, I'm not going to ask you to open that because of the nature of it. So but that does correspond to your Exhibit 7A, is that correct?
That corresponds with 7A of the pictures you just saw.
I'm going to open these. I'm just going to ask if you recognize these as the scissors that you referenced in your report.
So this is my exhibit 3A. It's got the unique laboratory number on it. And this one has my exhibit number, and my initials on it.
More paper bag. At least she's not opening them directly into the mic like the other chick did. I tend to think the last one, it was quite intentional. DoorDasher.
Right. So these contain the scissors, correct, that you examined?
That is correct.
And then we have 7A.
I know he knows he's going down, but he just seems so smug about it. Like, he's excited. I still contend he's getting a thrill out of this whole thing.
Introduced into evidence is Exhibit 364. And
I think it's not so we're having a hard time hearing you because you're not near a microphone. So maybe if we could, I don't know how to maybe try to speak up, you'll be picked up and heard.
All right. This is Exhibit 364. And could you describe this exhibit? You don't need to open it.
This is Exhibit 8N. So it's got the lab number, my unique number, and my ID that designate 8N. 8N is swabs from Joel Guy Jr.
So his DNA standard is buccal swabs.
That is correct.
What's your marking on here also?
This is Exhibit 8A, lab number, exhibit number, my initials. 8A is the known blood standard from Joel Guy Jr. Senior.
And this was our Exhibit 369, Judge. Then I'm going to show you.
Oh no, AA is it another
Our
intervention?
Exhibit 368, and ask you if you can identify this.
That corresponds to 8B, which is the Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. My lab number, exhibit number, and my initials are right next to it.
Okay. And this was our Exhibit 471 and 472. You could describe those.
Corresponds to 8D, with right hand fingernail clippings from Joel Guy Sr. and left hand clippings from Joel Guy Sr. Again, lab number, exhibit number, my initials on both.
Exhibit 4 has previously been introduced as Exhibit 453 and 450. Well, let's do 452, 453, and 454.
I think this detective would have dated Joel Guy Jr. if he wasn't on the other team and not on trial for murder.
This doesn't have my stuff on it. This one may have been repackaged.
Okay.
Exhibit 8G, swabs from area by gate, has the lab number, exhibit number, and my ID on it.
Area by gate.
8G, area by gate.
I think 452 wasn't examined. I think that's the.
8H is swabs from exercise room wall, has the lab number by exhibit number and the ID on it.
All right. And 465.
Is 8I, swabs from SS knife, lab number, exhibit number, my ID.
466.
Is my 8J, swabs from TT knife, lab number, exhibit number, my initials.
I don't think you have yours on these, do you?
I don't know.
And 468.
I didn't examine 468.
What about 460?
This one may have never been repackaged. I've never heard that one before.
Exhibit your 469 is my 8F, swabs from glove from hallway bathroom, has my lab number, exhibit number, and initials.
Put these up to open and to ask to introduce. This is collected 733 that report and photographs.
Any objection to 733? Folks, the court's going to receive Special Agent Lowe's report with the accompanying photographs as Exhibit
It is.
733.
It is for sure.
Now, did you prepare a second report that was submitted in December of 2008?
In December 13,
Yeah,
2018, I did, yes.
I think he's just so entitled,
And,
which is a bigger
you,
discussion and
describe the
issue
contents
we
of
can have later.
that report.
But
This report, I analyzed a notebook from a backpack.
I think it's entitlement.
And just tell the
I
jury
think
what
he
you did
thinks
with respect
everybody
to
owes
that.
him everything.
On the notebook from the backpack, I swabbed the entire outside of the notebook, and then I cut those swabs for DNA. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor profile is consistent with 8N, Joel Guy Jr. Exhibits 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8A, Joel Guy Sr. are excluded as contributors to this profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with the same DNA profile as the major contributor is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for the African American, Caucasian, and Southwestern Hispanic populations. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, interpretation of the minor contributor is deemed to be inconclusive.
That's true. And he'll have all the wink roommates that he
Photographs
could
of this
ever
as well,
imagine.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wink.
Right, and I'm going to avoid the microphone. And ask you, is this your worksheets with respect to the book?
Can y'all hear me? It's not safe. All right, Officer Thompson, can you bring that back over? Try not to trip this not safe. Thank you.
These are worksheets.
This is how I started the case file, and then this is the worksheet for that one exhibit 9A.
And this is your photograph?
It is. This is the front of the notebook, and then the first page when you open the notebook.
Page 4.
Is it a couple pages in? I think I just took a couple pictures of the notebook just to show what the notebook had, and then just took DNA of the outside.
Okay. I want to make sure this is the right one. Is this the same notebook that you can see?
It's the same notebook. It's got the exhibit number, the lab number, and my initials on it.
Same notebook?
Same notebook, same exhibit number on it, 9A. And the back of the notebook for 9A.
So when you examined it, I understand your testimony to be that you examined the exterior of it, the glossy or smooth surface.
I will.
I don't remember exactly if it's glossy or not, but for touch DNA analysis, go ahead and swab the whole thing to get as much as possible so you can get a usable profile, because touch DNA doesn't give a lot of DNA.
Any objection? The December 2018 report will be Exhibit 734.
Okay, so I'm going to show you what was previously been introduced into evidence as Exhibit 629 and ask you if you recognize your markings on this article of evidence.
I do. It's the lab number's here.
No.
It's again written here. The exhibit number are my initials.
It's probably
are
on
it.
file.
It's
Don't
exhibit
they have to
9A.
voluntarily provide one after a violent crime?
And did you, Agent
Ooh.
Lowe, prepare a third report involving 2 knives?
I didn't hear, but it wouldn't
recovered
surprise me.
from,
There has been a
the
lot of
scene in this
exhibits.
case?
So
I did.
And if you would please, would you just discuss the findings of your report issued 9/23/20?
The knife from the top of the stairs. There's a couple areas that I tested separately. Blade near the tip. Presumptive chemical testing indicated the presence of blood. Presumptive immunological testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained matches Exhibit 8A, Joel Guy Sr. Therefore, Exhibits 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8N, Joel Guy Jr. are excluded as contributors to this profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be
Like I
included
said,
as
the
a
defense
contributor to
hasn't
the
been
DNA
much, so
profile
they
is one in a
probably
number greater than the current world population for the African American, Caucasian, and Southwestern Hispanic
sure
populations.
he's done it by now.
The blade near the handle. Presumptive chemical testing indicated the presence of blood. Presumptive immunological testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood. The DNA profile obtained matches Exhibit 8A, Joel Guy Sr. Therefore, Exhibits 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8N, Joel Guy Jr. are excluded as contributors to this profile.
So with respect to the knife from the top of the stairs, you found blood on the blade tip and near the handle, and it was the DNA matched Joel Guy Sr. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The probability for blade near handle. The
Yes.
probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a contributor to the DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 groups.
The judge explained
The
it the
handle
other day.
of knife
I don't
from top
remember.
of stairs. Presumptive
Not a
chemical
very good
testing
one.
indicated the presence of blood. Presumptive immunological testing for the presence of human hemoglobin, a component of human blood, was not performed due to a limited sample. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least 1 is male. The major contributor to the profile is consistent with Exhibit 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy. Therefore, Exhibits
She's almost
8A,
done.
Joel Guy Sr., and 8N, Joel Guy Jr., are excluded as contributors to the major profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who be included as a contributor to the major DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for the African American, Caucasian, and Southwestern Hispanic groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, the minor contributor profile is inconclusive for comparison purposes.
Okay. So on the handle of the knife at the top of the stairs, you found Lisa Guy's DNA
As the major contributor, yes.
as the major contributor. Okay. And your findings with respect to the knife from the master bathroom?
I had 3 areas on the knife from the master bathroom as well. The blade tip. Presumptive chemical testing did not indicate the presence of blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least 1 is male. The major contributor to the profile is consistent with Exhibit 8N, Joel Guy Jr. Therefore, Exhibits 8A, Joel Guy Sr., and 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, are excluded as contributors to the major profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a contributor to this major DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than current world population for those 3 population groups. Due to the limited minor contributor profile obtained, the minor contributor profile is inconclusive for comparison purposes. Blade near the handle. Presumptive chemical testing did not indicate the presence of blood. The partial DNA profile obtained is consistent with Exhibit 8A, Joel Guy Sr. Therefore, Exhibits 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8N, Joel Guy Jr. are excluded as contributors to this profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a
Yeah,
contributor
they
to the DNA
presented
profile
nothing for
is
him.
1 in a number greater than the
That's
current world population for those 3
Probably
population
less
groups.
than 10
The
questions altogether.
Presumptive chemical testing did not indicate the presence of blood. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with Exhibit 8A, Joel Guy Sr. Therefore, Exhibits 8B, Oral B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8N, Joel Guy Jr. are excluded as contributors to this profile. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a contributor of the DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population for those 3 population groups.
Okay, so with respect to the knife from the master bathroom, just to recap, you found the defendant's DNA on the blade tip of this knife, correct?
As a major contributor, correct.
As the major contributor. And the blade near the handle, you found Joel Guy Sr.'s
Yes,
blood as the major contributor. Is that correct?
as he's the only contributor.
The only contributor. And with respect to the handle, you didn't find blood. However, am I reading this correctly? You did find, if those were exclusions. consistent with Joel Guy Senior, is that correct?
The handle is consistent with Joel Guy Senior.
Okay. And Judge, since the jury has seen these knives, I'm not going to publish the photographs, but they will be included as this collective exhibit. Maybe if they want to look through the photographs.
Any objections to 735? All right.
Yeah,
Third
735.
report, will be exhibit 735.
All right. So I'm going to show you what has been introduced.
No spoilers, SCAD. That's next week.
Previously in this case as Exhibit 612.
I don't know, though.
Recognize your markings on this exhibit.
I do. It's got the lab number, exhibit number, and then my initials.
And this was Exhibit 614. And do you see your markings?
I think it's mostly because this
Markings
prosecutor's
are on the
not a
label again
complete
with the
dirtbag like
Lab number,
some of
exhibit
the other
number
ones we've
11A,
seen.
and my initials.
Does this, do these reports represent the entire examination that you did with respect to this case?
Yes, they do.
Hey, what's up, Light Rain?
Very much
She's taking the night off. She has a family engagement.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, you did the first testing in, looks like you issued a report in March of 2018. Was the testing
this is
in
its
February of 2018?
The actual testing?
In the first report, the long report, basically.
No, I'm just messing with you, SCAD.
Or-
We all know the ending.
I tested it, yeah, between end of January, beginning of February.
Okay. And as you said on direct, you made some decisions that you wouldn't test things, correct? That there were items you weren't going to test.
I wasn't going to test them at the time. If it needed to be tested later, I left it open in case it needed to be tested.
Okay. For example, the clothing at the item 2A, the clothing at the top of the stairs. And what, you did not even open that bag, is that right?
That's right. I don't know what's inside the bag.
Okay, but I mean, you could have opened it to see if there was anything you could have done, is that right?
Typically don't open an item of evidence unless I'm actually going to work the item of evidence.
Yeah, but if you didn't know what the hell was in there, then wouldn't you at least check to see if it helped? Right? Or am I way off on this one, chat?
Then I think it's 8F. There was a glove from the, well, the hallway bathroom glove. You said you already worked that in Exhibit 7. Is that right?
Yeah, 8F, the agency had swabbed one of the gloves from the bathroom, which was in Exhibit 7A.
Okay.
The description on the outside of the
Okay.
envelope.
I
Oh,
was
so they
thinking
knew what was in
for
there.
a
She just
kitchen
didn't
gloves
look.
from master bathroom.
Gotcha.
You did not test that.
I did not.
And why is that again?
At the time, I was told they were actual gloves they used to take hot stuff out of the oven. So the chances at the time of of getting his DNA, it's just a common item of stuff you would use in the kitchen.
It's not common to find it in the master bathroom, is it?
I don't know.
Okay. But you didn't test that to see if it had blood on it. You didn't look at it?
I did not open it.
Okay.
Scat, I started for you with the hat on today. You didn't even have to remind me.
Now, the second report then was the notebook, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you receive that separately? Did you receive that later?
I received that, yes, later in November, end of November of 2018.
And were there any conversations or requests
about that notebook, what you were supposed to do?
I was just supposed to analyze it for the presence of DNA.
Okay.
Geez, I would also
Was
rather
there a phone
watch
call about that notebook?
Little People in Jello.
Let me check.
But that's just a personal preference thing. I don't have anything against DNA per se. I leave it way too many places. But other than that,
Approach the witness and show her and see if she can recognize this document. You recognize this document?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, that's one of my phone logs in this case. I just couldn't find it in my list.
Can you read for us if you do have it, what it says?
It says I call, or Rachel Samlin called to ask me about a notebook in this case. The DA wants DNA on the notebook for possession. Notebook was recovered in a backpack inside the victim's residence.
Now, the third report wasn't done until, and that's the knife at the top of the stairs and the other item, that wasn't done until last week. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And is that something that you received at the last minute, I guess?
It was something I received on September 17th.
Okay. And you were asked to try and get it done by the trial date?
I was.
Thank you. That's all.
why is she like so pseudo evasive on different
All right,
shit?
folks, let's go ahead and take our
That doesn't
mid-afternoon
make a
break.
difference.
Once again, do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. I will see you here in about 10 to 15 minutes.
And we're not even going to wait 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to go right into the next one. So this is going to be our last. This forensic anthropologist and the person who made the map.
KGIS.
Well, we do maps for the county, the city, and KUB, and any of those entities, fire, police, whoever that needs maps, and also web development.
Okay. And are you aware whether or not KGIS was contacted in this case to create 4 maps?
Yes,
And have you had a chance to review those maps prior to testifying today, sir?
yes, I have.
So I think this is more about his movements after the killing. He determined the defendant isn't human. Maybe.
I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as state's exhibit.
That's Squatch DNA.
44, 45, 46, 47. And ask if you can identify those documents, sir.
Yes, the maps that KGIS has done.
Okay, and if you would, tell us what the first map is, sir.
The map is the location. The first one, it shows the location of 11434 Golden View Lane.
Is that an aerial version?
It's an aerial view with the outline of the parcel boundary.
Okay, and the next photo, sir?
The next photo is a map that shows the aerial photo around Turkey Creek area, and it shows from the interstate level road to the residence
gobble.
at 11434 Golden View Lane.
Okay, and the next document?
The next document shows from Knoxville, Tennessee, the route to Louisiana, to Baton Rouge.
What's the mileage between, sir?
The mileage is 642 miles.
And the last document?
And the last document shows Turkey Creek aerial photo. And it shows Walmart highlighted and also PetSmart highlighted.
Is there anything else highlighted on that map, sir?
Yeah, also up in the upper left corner is the residence at 11434 Golden View Lane.
At this point, we move in States Exhibits 740.
I don't know. That's pretty pink. I might go on the pink train there.
Yeah, this is the map from Turkey Creek. So it should, the blue line shows from like Turkey Creek Level Road and Interstate all the way to the residence of 11434 Golden View Lane. And that's an aerial photo with streets and buildings. This shows the route from Knoxville to Baton Rouge, and that is 642 miles.
Nope,
So
I'm going to
this one
make the
shows
bold
the
this,
Turkey Creek
so
area.
there's no
The
wiggle.
orange is around Walmart. The purple is around
I
PetSmart.
was going to put salmon, but that
And
would
then
be
in
an
the
out.
upper left,
So
the red is the
gotta
parcel
pick one.
for the 11434 Golden View Lane residence.
And if you could, with your finger, draw a circle around the residence.
this cat is serious about this shirt color. I get it. We all have our passions.
So I'm going to approach with what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 748, 749, and 750. And I'll ask you if this accurately depicts or is a blown up version of one of the maps that we've already looked at.
Yes, it does.
With respect to Exhibit 749, sir, I'd ask you if this is a blown up version of a map that we've looked at.
Yes.
Amazing. You didn't even have to say anything. I already thought that. So
And with respect to Exhibit 750, sir, I'd ask you if this is a blown up map of the map that we looked at.
Yes, it is.
We move these in as States Exhibits 747, 48, 49, and 750.
In objection. 748, 749, 750.
We pass it.
Cross-examination. Thank you, sir. You may sit down if you go.
and no questions from the defense here. We're rolling right through. That was I guess had a purpose.
All right, next witness.
Dr. Murray Marks.
This is a forensic anthropologist, I believe. I still say that was a skirt. All right, so 67% peach, 33% pink. So,
Doctor, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial be the truth, the whole truth?
So I
and
say
nothing but the
pink.
truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, Dr. Marks. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask. We've disinfected the chair for you there.
peach one, fair and square.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Murray Marks,
Dr. Marks, where are you employed?
at two places, the University of Tennessee Graduate School of Medicine and at the Regional Forensic Center in Knoxville.
What is your occupation?
I'm a forensic anthropologist.
Can you describe for the jury, please, what a forensic anthropologist does?
He kind of looks like a
Forensic
skinny Bruce Banner.
anthropologist in the working for the medical examiner's office really does two things. They look at skeletal remains, decomposed remains, mutilated remains, and help the medical examiner determine age, ancestry, gender, stature. They provide a biological profile of an unknown individual. The other thing they do is look at trauma, blunt force, ballistic force, sharp force trauma to bone. In essence, the anthropologist answers the questions posed by the pathologist.
Okay. Can you discuss your educational background with the jury, please?
I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a
What's up, Raven?
PhD. The PhD was from here at the University of Tennessee. Returned after I got my doctorate to be a forensic anthropologist, became board certified, which is kind of the final hurdle you do academically and professionally.
Right. And just a brief background of your employment. Where have you worked?
Where have I worked? Strictly for the Graduate School of Medicine as a professor in forensic dentistry. Before that, I was a faculty member in the Department of Anthropology here at the university. The forensic work has been primarily for the Regional Forensic Center here in Knoxville, also the forensic anthropologist for Chattanooga, Hamilton County, and do a variety of lectures and courses for the University of Western Australia and Boston University.
Are you published in the field of forensic anthropology?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you
I would
prepare,
not want to talk to this guy.
a CV for
He's just kind of got that
purposes of
cadence
your
to his
testimony
voice
today?
that drives me nuts.
May I approach the witness?
I'll show you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 751 and ask you if this is your CV.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. We would ask Your Honor, please, to introduce this into evidence.
Any objection? Exhibit 751.
At this time, Your Honor, please, we would tender Dr. Marks as an expert witness in the field of forensic anthropology.
All right, folks, the court is going to recognize Dr. Marks as an expert in the area of forensic anthropology. Once again, since he's deemed to be an expert, he's allowed to render his opinion within his area of expertise. Also, once again, just because an expert witness has rendered their opinion does not mean that you are bound to accept it. It's your job to judge the weight and credibility to be given to his testimony, just like every other witness. But he is an expert, so he may tender his opinion. You may continue.
Thank you.
It's
Dr.
2
Marks,
years ago, Raven.
Did you
So
participate in an evaluation and examination of the remains of Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy?
I did.
Can you tell the jury how you became involved in the case?
I became involved because the forensic pathologist, Dr. Hawes, asked me to participate and look at the remains and make an assessment of skeletal trauma.
And did you determine, were you able to identify the remains?
Yes.
With respect to Joel Guy Sr., how was he identified?
He was actually identified by fingerprints, so I didn't have anything to do with that, but I was cognizant of that.
Did you review dental remains
I did.
of him as well?
I did. Teeth being part of the skeleton, I also review those, look at that, and in case dental records come in on that person, then we can make those comparisons with the help of a dentist. But since there was fingerprint material to use, that's how he was identified.
Were you also able to make an identification of the remains of Lisa Guy?
Again, looked at her dentition and prepared things for that, but she was identified from an orthopedic appliance, so we didn't have to do a dental ID on her.
Right. Did you prepare reports regarding your evaluations of the remains of Joel and Lisa Guy?
I did.
And I would just ask you, we could just begin with Joel Guy Sr., and if you could discuss your findings in your report. If you, and just for a little background, explain to the jury what your process was once the remains come into your possession. What did you do with them?
When they come into the medical examiner's office, they're photographed and everything's documented. When the pathologist finishes his or her autopsy, then the anthropologist can step in and do whatever they need to do to answer the question, in this particular case, about identification and trauma. His identification, I don't believe when I was first introduced to the case, was made at that time. But that became apparent who these individuals were. And so the next thing is to look at the bone. And the pathologist said, can you tell me about any damage or what's the status of the skeletal remains of both these individuals? So to do that, removed what soft tissue was in the way of looking at the bone, which is a good majority of it. And then again, prepared this, took a good bit of time because there was no scalpels used or anything like that. So have to slowly tease away the muscle, the soft tissue, and the periosteal or the covering on the bone surfaces to look at any damage. So again, you're talking about several hours to actually prepare the remains to look primarily at the skeleton.
And with respect to Joel Guy, could you discuss the results that you derived from your examination of his remains?
There's, excuse me, there's two events that take place to the skeleton, in my estimate. First have to do with trauma that occurred around the time of death, what we call acute or perimortem. And then there's a type of trauma that is postmortem. And so I broke down my report based on these two types of wounds. The wounds, and this is all sharp wounds. There was a few bone breaks that would have been caused by blunt force, but that was probably associated with the sharp force trauma that took place. There was no ballistic wounds or gunshot wounds or anything like that. So in looking at the remains, the first thing I noticed was the sharp force wounds. And the sharp force wounds, particularly that had to do with around the time of death, were primarily to the ribs. There were 6 right ribs and 6 left ribs that had at least 16 cut marks on them or slices. These wounds were everything from a kind of a grazing line to a somewhat deep incision to a complete severing. There was also chipping of the bone. Sharp force trauma to bone involves, bone is a fragile tissue. And so up against a sharp implement, whether that's a bullet or a baseball bat or a knife proper or a saw or something of that, will tend to splinter and chip. And you can get an idea about what bone is doing based on those wounds. So to that end, notice that these wounds had to do with, for the most part, trauma, particularly to, like I say, the rib cage. There were 6 right ribs, 6 left ribs, and then some trauma to the right scapula or shoulder blade. So all total, there were at least 16 wounds to the rib cage. And again, these slices were of all varying degrees, complete severing of the rib to chipping and that type of thing. So, and there's pictures in the report of that. The second.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go on.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So the rib trauma did not have to do with the taking apart of the skeleton. The rib trauma was primarily in the back area. And in looking at that trauma, there was no attempt to take apart ribs or take apart vertebra. So the idea is that that's probably something that happened around the time of death compared to afterwards. Then there is probably what I referred to as a post-mortem event where the body was disarticulated or dismembered. Those two terms are kind of used interchangeably. The arms were removed from the torso.
Same. He'd want to
at the
talk about himself
joints.
way too much.
Okay, so at the shoulder region. The hands were removed from the forearms or the lower arms below the elbows, again at the wrist joints. The legs were removed from the torso at the hip joints, and the right foot was removed from the ankle joint. This was definitely a post-mortem type of an event. There was a solution involved. I was told I did not visit the scene. There was a solution involved that the remains were in upon discovery, and that really damaged the bone. So exposed bone surfaces, particularly when the arms and legs were removed, wrist removed, foot removed, those bone surfaces started to be denuded or destroyed. So there would be incised lines that were very hard to read in those particular areas. The skull and the mandible didn't show any type of sharp force injury.
Okay. Would, as part of your report with respect to Mr. Guy, there were diagrams that you prepared, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And would that assist you in illustrating for the jury the injuries that you noted and referenced in your report?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so I want to stop it for like 1 second because this guy is the epitome of the guy who ridiculously over-explains stuff and uses big words. And I would not want this as one of my witnesses for my jury, because your jury is going to be full of lay people that don't get it or don't are just intimidated by the speak. I've never understood why they have people that are, I mean, you want to be intelligent and understand your field, but I think you can take it way, way too far. You can take it way, way too far and kind of alienate some of the jurors. Like in my career, I've always said I speak both nerd and English. So I've always been really effective at communicating to both sides. And if you can do certain things, you got to have that crossover skill. And it just seems like this guy is all nothing but just the academic type. And I wouldn't want that from one of my witnesses, but I digress.
Okay.
There's a stylus.
Okay.
I'm going to show you page 2 of the report. And you could just describe to the jury the findings that you made with respect to the top portion of this page.
Excuse me. The top image shows the ribs after I remove them from the soft tissue and the vertebral column. What the image represents is the ribs laid out in anatomical order. So you always display things as if someone is looking at you. So the ribs on your left are the Mr. Guy's right ribs, and the ribs on the left are his the ones on the right are his left ribs, and the ones on the left are his right. So it's
gentlemen,
difficult to see
look who
that there are
decided
red
to show up for
dots
work today.
that are on the bones, and those
Hey,
red
girl.
dots are in places here.
I decided to show up.
Yeah, I see that.
These areas represent
How are you?
sharp force
Oh,
injury.
good. Had a little family thing. So,
That's fun. Good time.
yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And probably some other places as well.
Well, welcome to
those are
the
areas where there are
smug,
sharp force
arrogant
injuries
academic
to the
doctor
ribs.
dick.
And they represent,
Oh.
again, areas that
Okay.
are damaged. Down towards the bottom of that image, the cutoff pieces were performed at autopsy. That's part of the procedure to look at the organs. So the ribs are cut down towards, and that would be the front part of the chest area, so that the organs can be removed. So that has nothing to do with the report as far as trauma is concerned. But what that represents is the area primarily in the back region that received
Mighty
sharp force
sure you're
trauma.
saying you have to get down
The image
to our level.
below
No,
is a computer
that's not at all it.
picture of
I hope you're joking
the chest
because I
region from the front view on the
it's
left.
not about that. I think it's
and the
important
back region
because
on the right.
everybody has their
And what
and
it
I'm
represents,
explaining it like
again,
I have to, and
are
I know I
areas
don't.
where
But
there are cuts.
everybody has their own
to look
path
at
and
that,
their own specific,
there's sharp force trauma
you know,
in the areas
language
that are
and
red.
shit
So
that they use
here,
in their everyday
here,
speak.
here,
And
here.
I think if you can help
Again, that
people
you can see
understand
on the-
it from a different perspective or from
by
a,
looking at it from the front.
you know,
When you look at it from the back,
something that they actually
which is what this
understand.
picture
Like I could sit up
shows,
there and say big words,
it
but nobody's
demonstrates
gonna
other areas
like.
of trauma that
It's
are
not gonna
primarily in the back
as
region.
far as it is.
So you can
if
kind
I
of see,
can,
and they're all in the back. As I said, you're just looking through.
you know,
on
make
the
it for
image on the
everybody.
right. So this again is just a computer generated picture
You
that shows
acknowledging my giant
where there's
hand.
sharp force trauma to ribs.
People have been ribbing me all day about that. So.
Ribbing.
Not so much on these. The fractures to the ribs would be up in here in the first image. There's some breaks
They're
up
massive
in here.
though.
There might have, I think
Can't even
there's
find
another one over
gloves.
here. Now, by fracture, do you mean a complete slice?
For your ribs?
Or do you mean a blunt force?
No, for my hand, for my giant hands. That's why I don't wear them.
The blunt force would be
Oh, okay.
from associated with a fracture line, which is part of pushing and then eventually breaking. So yeah, there's a few of those as well.
Yeah,
Okay, so what
exactly.
these images
Amazing.
show,
Thank you.
Starting at the top left, that's the right fifth rib. Then the top right is the right sixth rib. And then the right sixth rib are the middle two pictures. The right seventh rib is the bottom two pictures.
As I was
So
going
what
to
I
say
did was I
something, but I'm going to
selected certain
refrain.
ribs that had that were characteristic of
Because
the
it would be a
different types of
phrasing on my
trauma.
part.
So in starting at the top,
And
what
I
we
don't have the button, so you're
what
on
the
your own.
arrows represent, and they're somewhat difficult to see, but there's an arrow here and an arrow here and one in the middle. And those three arrows show two different types of damage to the ribs. The ones on the periphery or lateral demonstrate breaks or scrapes where a piece of bone was popped away. The one in the middle is like a cut. So it has a cut with several linear lines to it. But again, talking about the superior border, the other is the right sixth rib. And this is a slice that is somewhat deeper, and it has a piece of bone that is actually pushed up. So what it means is that the weapon kind of twisted or caused the piece of bone to work its way up. The middle two pictures demonstrate a complete popped out region, meaning there's sharp force trauma along the edges, and then the central region has been removed because
She missed the whole
as the blade
toothbrush
was
thing
lifted,
earlier.
moved or
So
twisted, a piece
I think
popped
that's why
away.
she didn't show up until
And the
later.
other image here is just a superior view of that, showing the region of damage. At the bottom, we see some superficial nicks, but again, many of them that demonstrate, a variety of different depths. Again, on the superior border of the rib, the area, excuse me, the image on the right shows complete severing of the rib from where it was embedded into the vertebra. So every rib is embedded in the vertebra, and that shows where there's been a complete slice that has separated the rib. Okay, so the picture at the top is the right 8th rib. The picture at top left, top right is the right 9th rib. And then the middle pictures are the left 7th rib. And the picture on the right is the left 10th rib.
Bobby.
Okay, so looking at those 4, again, what they're demonstrating is a variety of cuts. So in looking at this, we see, a cut in this region, and then turned on end, a different rib, we see a slice that goes down, a little bit deeper. Okay, but they both show kind of where you have sharp force and then a kind of a moving away of the bone. I guess a good analogy might be a frozen stick of butter and how you stick a knife through it in pieces. If it's
daydreaming
frozen,
about his
pieces will
handiwork.
pop away or will move accordingly. Bone's a little
No
bit more of a
pictures of
complex
hands
tissue
today?
than that. The 2 middle
No.
pieces kind
Nope,
of show
we
the
didn't have
same thing
hands
at
today.
different angles, an uplifted piece of bone, and
We
then
had
a
mom's
complete wedge of
toothbrush.
bone that has been removed. Again,
Oh, that's what the
whole
toothbrush
idea was to
comment was
document the
about.
different
Okay.
types of sharp force
Mhm.
trauma that impacted the ribs and the whole.
I think I brought it in
in
as
the whole
evidence in the
instance.
court.
The bottom 3 images
Oh.
demonstrate the 11th
Yeah.
rib. And what they show is breakage.
They got
There's a
kind of
slice
testy
in
towards
this
each
region
other. It was
here,
kind of funny.
and
the
then
first time
there's another slice over here, but they
Hmm.
represent 2
about the
views of
jailhouse phone
breakage
call.
that happened, which is what this
Oh, I missed
represents, and of
it.
course all of this.
Yep.
That
And
was
his
associated with,
roommate,
again,
wink, wink.
pushing or pressure against
Quote
the cut
unquote
area
roommate.
that caused
Yeah,
fracture.
the chat
to
also
the rib.
agrees that he's a
And
lover,
then
not
the
a
image
friend.
at the bottom,
Was
this
a lover.
is a close-up of this region here,
We did a
which
poll.
shows the cut and the break.
Would you let this guy give you a retron? No, because he would probably stab me
In the back.
Uh,
the wrong way.
Page 5 just simply shows these 2 images don't really have anything to do with trauma. This is a healed fracture callus of a fracture that took place months or years before, but I included it in there because of the time element, not really knowing for sure what was associated, and the pathologist wants everything documented. So these have nothing to do with sharp force trauma. They're a fracture callus from a previous break. So the images at the bottom represent the scapula, and here you're looking at this is looking at it from the back, and this
So
is
there's
looking at
broken
it from
ribs or
the
shoulder
inside, or
before.
looking through the rib cage. And what this perforation represents on both sides is a puncture of blunt instrument, if you will. Not so much sharp. There could have been a sharp component to it, as we'll see. But the piece was found. Again, it's a puncture wound from the back, which is what this image represents, from the back, going in here. And the piece was broken off and found in the musculature on the inside of the scapula.
Ow. Oh, that sounds like it would hurt.
Yeah, that's painful.
Right. This was the piece that was found embedded in the
Oh.
musculature. Not a sharp implement at all. This edge is not sharp. It might look like it. The only thing I could think, a lot like a letter opener, right? And some of those can be sharp, but
Ooh.
sometimes they're blunt as
shit.
well. So again, something that punctured in and was
Damn.
broken off.
He
but
stabbed
not
him in
really
the
had a
shoulder with
slice
the
or
equivalent of a letter
incised
opener.
line to it.
That's brutal.
That's some
Yes.
kind of special.
Oh, okay. So the bottom image shows the right and left humerus, and what these represent are changes.
None of this is humorous,
in
you
the
asshole.
areas up near the shoulder region. So the elbow region would be down here, and this is the shoulder. And what this represents is complete denuding or breaking away or dissolving
Denuding?
of that proximal part of the bone. So the
guess.
head of the humerus.
That's what we were
which is
talking
the
about,
upper
like
arm
his
bone.
big
Both
words
of
that
these
nobody fucking
instances is
understands.
gone. It's been
Is
somewhat
this a forensics
dissolved. There's a little
psychologist?
bit of a remnant of sharp force
The
injury
forensic.
that can be seen
Pathologist?
over here in this image. This image
No,
is
he's
a blow
the.
up of
Yeah.
the humerus on this side, and you can see some very faint striations or cut marks, which would be associated
Forensic
with
anthropologist.
severing of
Anthropologist.
the
Okay, I was on the
upper
right
shoulder.
track.
Yeah, something like that. I just couldn't remember exactly what it was.
All right, so this shows the femurs. So again, what we have here is the
Thank you,
left
Skip.
and right femur heads. And what the arrows represent in this area here, that you can see these small arrows represent areas where there's
That's what I
cut
am
mark
right now.
striations around the neck of the femur head. Of course, this is what fits into the pelvis region. And you can see there's breakage in this area here. You can see some cut mark regions here that are associated with, damage from sharp force injury. When we look at the left femur, this was the right femur on this side. When we look at the left femur, we're looking at the back of it, and you can see that the head has been completely removed. So there isn't any femur head. That was actually found lodged still within the pelvis region. So the neck of the femur was cut off.
Say the femur was lodged within the pelvis region.
The femur is the
Yeah,
upper
it
leg
was
bone.
the neck was cut off
bone
of
that
it, so he cut
is
the.
inside all the thigh
Oh,
musculature.
Oh no, I got it. No need to
Oh.
explain.
The two images at
because I
the
wasn't
bottom,
going to.
they represent, okay, these are the elbow regions, and these are what fit into the humerus. Okay, so they're unaffected. They don't have any cuts or scars on them.
Definitely marked.
But what it shows is the
I think he's more
the
interesting.
degreasing, if you will, that the chemical caused on this part. So the wrist regions would be at the ends where they attach. No evidence of particularly cutting in those regions on the bone because of the damage that the chemical caused to the bone surfaces.
This next page of your report, a minute photograph of the skull that you can discuss your findings about.
Yeah. The skull didn't have any type of sharp force trauma. Didn't have any type of blunt force trauma as well. But the central region was completely gone. So from the middle part of the forehead down to the left part of the maxilla or upper jaw, this was all missing. And the surfaces, the borders, were all damaged from the chemical exposure. So there was no evidence of sharp force trauma to any of that. The dental inventory simply, again, the teeth are part of the skeleton, and so the anthropologist documents them as well. Once identification was made from the fingerprints, it didn't have anything to do with identification. And the jaws were completely unremarkable with respect to trauma. There was no sharp force or any other type of trauma to that region. So the conclusion, if you can read that, mentions that, the skeletal remains were dissected from the soft tissue after autopsy to do what the pathologist asked, to look for and kind of interpret the perimortem or postmortem around the time of death or after death, sharp force injuries.
God, it's the video.
Both
It is the video that
the
clicking.
dorsal region
Yeah.
or the back
Yeah.
part of the ribs
Sorry,
near
it's
the
long
vertebral
cock.
column showed sharp force injuries that ranged from very fine lines to scrapes to regions popped out to complete severing of the bone that had to do with a sharp implement. The wound that had to do with the scapula was somewhat more blunt because, again, it didn't have a sharp edge to it.
Wow.
I believe that's it.
I mean, it takes some force to stab something through somebody that's not sharp, though.
Yeah. Shows anger.
And yeah. Well, I guess that explains it because I'm like, he's not that strong. Like, He's not a very
You could explain to the jury the difference
burly
Yeah.
man.
dismemberment
Yeah, no, that shows he was angry.
Yeah.
I
So I guess it's just
stuff like that.
physics. He's kind of
Mhm.
chunky, and
Christy, do we have those lapel mics in here?
you know,
I can scream if you want me to.
Well, I might need to, but let's try this first before you scream.
You want me to come down here? Okay.
And I hate to do this to you, Doc, but since you're not behind the glass, this report makes me tell you where you're going. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
oh,
Yes,
that's
probably anger
stupid.
and adrenaline.
Yep.
Okay, so your question about dismemberment or disarticulation. The two terms are used interchangeably.
Are we
Like
serious?
grandma and grandmother. They mean the same thing. It's just sometimes when you talk about
We're getting a
disarticulation,
fucking anatomy lesson.
people that are, describing things will talk about where the joints are. This is where the bones articulate. So disarticulation means the taking apart of the skeleton at the joint areas, whether that's in the
See, this
skull,
all seems completely unnecessary. This does nothing.
ankle, wrist,
Yeah,
elbow,
no, they
For
don't
me.
need that.
You can disarticulate the vertebra between.
Don't want to
because
get the
there's a disc
skeleton
between.
sick.
So
Bobby, yeah, that's true.
disarticulation, and I use them interchangeably with dismemberment.
He could die.
Dismemberment is more of
He could.
a broader term, which means just, I'm going to break this thing up or saw it up or do whatever I'm going to do. And without
I'm just
any
glad he
respect
doesn't
for
have
it.
a boner.
So that's kind of the differences between the two. And anthropologists will use both terms interchangeably. Disarticulation is a little bit more specific. But disarticulation is also dismemberment in a way. Dismemberment, though, is just simply breaking something up. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you would, just show the jury where Mr. Guy's limbs were disarticulated.
Okay. At both shoulder regions, and they were unattached. Okay. So again, not being able to see cut marks except on those real fine lines of that bone that had been dissolved a little bit at the shoulder regions and at the wrist. Okay, and then at the hip joints. Okay, they were taken apart, and at the knee joints, and the right.
Bobby might affect its calcium intake.
So that was the disarticulation process.
And the ribs that were damaged, 6 on the right and 6 on the left, is that correct?
Right, and so what you would do would be to look at it this way and count them down. I'd have to look at my notes to know exactly which ones they were. The wounds were associated primarily with where they articulate with the spine about a third of the way over. Again, there was damage to the scapula, which would have been in the way of covering the ribs, a certain part of it, then all the way down. So again, no damage really to the front.
Who do you think's getting off more right now, the doctor or Joel?
Damage to the skull.
The doctor, I think.
Was in the facial region.
I probably agree with
It
you.
would have been the area right in the middle. So it was dissolved. The bone was dissolved. The small bones of the internal.
He's
face
fingering the eye hole.
The frontal region was missing. The nasal region.
I can't wait till he compliments
And
him.
one side, I think the left side of the maxilla.
Oh, nice. Did he get consent? He did get consent.
So you weren't able to tell if there was blunt force
Are you sure?
there or sharp force injury.
Written consent?
Did you detect any indication?
Verbal
of the type of
consent.
weapon maybe that was
I don't
used?
see that skeleton sign in it.
There was no saw marks, so there was nothing that was associated with chopping or sawing.
Did he just give it a goodbye hug, or was that just me?
Could these
I think he
sharp
gave
force
it a goodbye
injuries
hug.
have been
Okay.
He's like, see you later, bud.
inflicted with any type of knife?
Skelly, we'll have fun
Do you have an
later.
opinion?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm not sure what other sharp force injuries, those types of injuries I've seen before have always been associated with it. Research that anthropologists have done, graduate students, publications have used implements like that to produce wounds in bone that are synonymous with what I saw.
Can you disarticulate limbs with a knife?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I know.
If you have the
Sometimes you gotta
patience
laugh about it.
and the
Yes.
perseverance. I mean, it takes time to cut through the ligaments, the muscles, the joint capsules. I mean, it's a lot of work to disarticulate a body at the joint surfaces. Yeah. But it could be done with a knife.
Now, with respect to, let's turn to Lisa Guy. And I would like to do sort of the same thing. This time I'll ask you if you prepared a report with respect to your findings on Mrs. Guy.
Forgot to do that. Yeah.
How long have you been going without it
And
sped up?
again, how identified?
I think she was identified by a
Since I switched
orthopedic
videos
appliance.
And
no.
if you could
when he came on.
describe your observations of her remains.
Well, her, again, pretty much a lot like his. The
Somebody
head,
wasn't here to
separate.
remind me.
So there was a little bit of a different type of decomposition or chemical altering of the remains because it was a separate piece.
No
But for
better.
the most part, the damage to the soft tissue, again, which is not my area of expertise, was pretty similar. So the damage to the bones was identical.
Okay. And what were the results of your examination?
Looking at, again, everything after it was processed, after all the bones were available for study, the head was removed prior to discovery of the scene between the second and third cervical vertebra. Okay, there's a disc space between every vertebra, and the slicing was between that. The arms were removed at the shoulders. The right hand was removed at the wrist. There were sharp force wounds to 21 ribs. 21 ribs had sharp force injuries, kind of the same as I've described.
Wow.
There was also trauma to the scapula, shoulder blades.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Both left and right humerus, or the upper arms, the radius and ulna of the lower arms, the cervical vertebra, and again, the ribs. So
He was
there were
certainly
left,
angry. This was
Mhm.
gruesome.
that had
Far more gruesome than I
9
think they've
damaged.
articulated so
12 right
far.
ribs that were damaged, and these ran the same type of a degree of severity, from very fine incised lines to chips and wedges and complete severing, so or complete perforation. The right scapula had 9 wounds that were associated with disarticulation.
9?
They are at the joint
Wow.
region. The left scapula had 1 that had that damage to it. The tibia and the fibula, or the lower legs, didn't have any cut marks on them because of the chemical exposure.
Showing you what's in marked for ideas 753. This is the same report that you're discussing at this point.
Yes, it is.
We formally move this into evidence, Judge. I would ask to publish some of the photographs, not photographs, the diagrams from the report.
Any objection? The big exhibit 753, you may publish.
So on page 2 of your report, you just discuss your findings with respect to Lisa Guy.
Okay, well, this is the same format that I used in the other report, again, showing the ribs. And the ribs are not completely cleaned, all the way down to the bone surfaces, particularly where they articulate with the vertebra. Special care had to be taken not to obliterate anything, so that's why they can kind of look a little fuzzy. But in the same respect, what we have are these red dots that are associated with cut marks on the ribs, or areas where that took place. So, and I might be missing some because they're kind of hard to see at places.
Yes,
those are the
Deez, it
areas
is.
where I've got one here as well. Right here.
Safe to say he penetrated
those are
his
places
mouth.
where there were sharp force trauma.
I told you
injury
that-
to the ribs. The picture at the bottom, again, the same computer
Andy took a
generated
bite.
image. It's not the decedent. It came from a web-based source, and what it represents, again, where the red areas are wounds to the ribs. And again, these are all on the backside. Okay, here and here. When we look at the backside, which is the image on the right, you can see more of them, or all this area here. The green areas that you can see here are fracture calluses that were broken prior to death. Old injuries, yes.
So she broke her ribs before?
That's what it seems
again,
like.
These are micrographs,
Wow.
again, taken at about 6 to 20 power.
So
same with the
was there abuse from the husband, or
images that were taken, and they show the rib areas and the cuts. We have
That's
the
a
left
question.
first
I
rib,
don't know.
the left second rib on the right,
I
left
mean,
first
you're-
rib on the left second
Maybe
rib
car
on the
wreck?
right.
Maybe.
And then at the bottom, the left third rib and the
As
right
a
second
juror,
rib.
I would be thinking
Again,
that
the
though. I'd be
idea
like,
was
huh,
to
I wonder what the
Yeah.
hell that's all
show
about.
or document the different
And
degree of cutting from a partial slice like we see
you
here.
might
a slice
inadvertently
here, but also all
introduce
these
doubt.
little chatter marks
Right.
that it's called when a blade goes in and moves back and forth. Sometimes it leaves a chatter mark on bone. The image down here shows, the arrow shows a bent area where the blade goes in and twists, then
Maybe Dad
the
was
bone gets bent
abusive
down,
and
so you can get an
it-
idea
no?
about
I mean,
angulation.
outside
It's
chance
The image
possible.
over here
doubt.
just simply shows a grazing line or an incised line.
Well, see,
These
I know that
images-
you can differentiate
The
between
two at the top are the right
pre-mortem
seventh
and
rib,
post-mortem
then we have
injuries
the right
because
third
of the way
rib
they
in the lower
heal.
left, and the right 12th rib in the lower right. And what they represent, again, are two types of wounds: a complete severing
Could they tell through
of the rib,
postmortem? No, they were
and a notch.
they were
So
prior
different
to
types
this
Prior.
interaction.
Yeah.
of wounds. Again, what this shows here is a little bit of the bone that's been turned up because of the pressure as the blade twisted or moved.
We all
The
know
image at the
that,
bottom,
Fenny. We're just saying you
the
got to be
lower right-hand-
careful
lower
with
left-hand
doubt
corner,
here.
shows again complete breakage of
bring
the
it
rib,
in.
but it also shows this
Mhm.
area here that is a popped off or broken region. Again, putting something in or putting
Well, I
a
don't know if
blade
you
in
could
and then
bring in
twisting it
prior
can pop off a variety of regions.
bad
The
acts
other
like
image just
that.
shows breakage from force.
Well, I don't
from
think you
pressure.
could, but
That's
but
not a
again,
cut mark,
it's
that's
just
Yeah.
a wound that's associated
just
with
a
pushing.
thought in the
Blood
head,
force.
like, huh,
Yeah.
I wonder what all that's about.
This is the left fourth rib.
Scott says my mom
Of the deceased, and what it represents
broke
is,
five,
again, this
five ribs when she
combination
had
of
pneumonia
a
from
sharp force
coughing.
injury that you can see here, and then a region
Wow.
that has been popped out
Okay.
and
Okay.
removed, by virtue of that. Again, a blade twisting can do a
Hmm.
variety of things, from the little chatter marks I mentioned to an incised line to complete severing to the whole aspect of popping out a piece. The image at the bottom shows the scapula. And what this represents, you're looking at the backside, and what this shows are areas where there's sharp force trauma.
Amazing says maybe they weren't dead. He tortured
Actually, another
them.
one here. This is cut here, region
Could have
cut
been.
there, and also there. So different areas where there's sharp force trauma to the scapula. That,
Yeah, but I need more
you know, if
information
we,
on that now.
If we would separate this down the
Yeah.
middle, the areas to the
And
to this
don't get it-
side.
Don't get it
associated with
confused.
vertebral
Like he's still a
column, probably
dirtbag, and
associated
he's
with,
still
rib wounds.
No, yeah.
rightfully went to
Whereas the
prison,
areas on the
but-
other side, the shoulder area, probably more associated with disarticulation. That's yes, yes, exactly. Okay, this shows the scapula, the right scapula, and it shows two regions of that. What this shows is just simply a wedge taken out of the bottom of where your upper arm fits in and rotates. So the scapula goes down in the back, and so right underneath where this is, close to the armpit. This other area shows a cut region that is
Amazing.
on the front part of the scapula and
That's
kind of
awesome.
front of the shoulder region here, and that's been completely severed. The picture at the bottom shows the left scapula, and what it shows is this region here where the acromion piece, or the part that you can feel on the back, the ridge you can feel on your back going towards your shoulder, has been severed. Okay, these four images demonstrate the changes that took place because of the chemical solution. So again, we have this picture here that is the upper arm bones or the humerus. So the shoulder regions are at the top, and what they represent is chemical destruction. There's also destruction in this region of the elbow, but it's not from dismemberment or disarticulation. That area is very close to the skin surface. And so if that skin is gone, or moved away or damaged, then that bone can be vulnerable as well. The forearm bones, this would be the right forearm or the area between the elbow and the wrist, and this is the left. This shows that the damage and denuding or chemical change of the wrist region. And the left forearm bones here and here show that really to an extreme degree. The pictures at the bottom demonstrate the changes in the knee region that goes down to the lower leg. So this is the knee region. This is the ankle region. And you can see that the knee regions on both sides have been denuded by a chemical exposure. And the lower right ankle
Move, dude.
shows
Remove.
that change as well.
You don't need to say denuded.
Okay, so this is the first cervical vertebra called the atlas. This is the second cervical vertebra called the axis, atlas and axis. And what this represents, or what this shows, is breakage of these areas here. And so on the side of the vertebra, that's where we have blood vessels, and those have been broken. They've not been cut. So it's a blunt force trauma in that region. If we look on the bottom of that vertebra, again, our atlas, or our first cervical vertebra, where it articulates with the skull, you can see that this area has been chipped or damaged compared to the rest of it. And that's from forceful movement back and forth of the vertebral column against the skull. What this image over here represents is the part of the second cervical vertebra way up high in the neck that sticks out. So this would be the back part. And this would be more of where the spinal cord is. And what it shows is sharp force trauma. The white circles demonstrate two areas of sharp force trauma or slicing.
So does this mean that when you talk about movement and blunt force, does this mean that her head was manipulated or moved with blunt force?
Probably so, yes, yeah.
Before it was disarticulated?
Well, it's probably part of the same process. So she received 21 sharp force injuries to the ribs, 12 on the left and 9 on the right. There was a close look at those surfaces, looking at the bone and how it's bent. You can get a direction of force that came from the back and from the top by looking at those wedges and how they're turned and bent. Like I say, you can make an assessment of that. And so out of those rib wounds, there were 3 nicks, 9 slices, and 9 completely severed ribs. Yeah, and then the first cervical vertebra had that blunt force trauma to the transverse regions that had to do with, again, trying to manipulate or kind of move the head. But there was also slicing as well on that second cervical vertebra.
Dr. Marks, I'm going to ask you to step down again and use a model to describe where you observed injury to Lisa Guy's remains.
Okay, well, again, what we have is dismemberment that was not at the hips, but just in the knee region, and 1 ankle or 1 foot was removed. So the hip region was intact. The wrists, there was probably severing there, probably removed, but again, chemical decomposition of the ends of those bones, as you saw, prevented looking at any cut marks. So there was no sharp force trauma in those particular regions. The elbows were preserved.
He jumped off the top rung in a battle royale. That's funny, amazing.
Which is associated with those wounds to the scapula, the notches and cuts we saw in there. The head was removed way up at the top.
What did his dad? Well, I can talk. What did his dad do? I forgot. Like work-wise? He was like a pharmacist, wasn't he, or some shit?
Second cervical vertebra. The damage to the atlas or the top cervical vertebra is associated with, again, movement of the skull.
Very well. And all of your findings to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you can add to regarding your findings?
No, I don't believe so.
I'll ask you the same question. Do you believe that just a knife would, or maybe even more than 1 knife, could have inflicted these injuries?
Yes,
He
ma'am.
was an
including the
engineer.
disarticulation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
A pipeline
And
engineer.
Mrs. Guy's right hand was separated from.
Okay, so it could have
from
sustained
her
injuries
arm,
like that
correct?
on the job.
Right.
I could have
Probably
a
not
second.
likely, but could have.
Yeah.
I think that's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Cross-examination.
Oh, thank Jesus.
No
The
question.
cross will not
Thank you,
say
Dr.
anything.
You're free to go. Have a good day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. All right. Any further proof from the state?
Please, the state of Tennessee rests.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, the state has now rested its case in chief. That does not necessarily mean that you have heard all the evidence that will be presented to you to decide this case. The defendant has no burden of proof in this case, but he is given an opportunity to present evidence to witnesses and exhibits if he wishes to do so. At this point of the trial, I always have to take a break to deal with certain legal issues. When we come back, we will do one of two things. If there will be any defense proof, we will hear that. If they choose not to present any proof, then we'll go into closing arguments. Once again, do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. You can leave your notebooks in your chairs. This break always takes a while. It'll be at least 20 minutes, probably more like 30. So leave your notebooks in chairs. Go with the officers. I'll see you here a little bit later.
I wanted to kind of see what motions and stuff they had, so I just want to see what the defense is doing because they haven't done shit yet.
No.
Move for a judgment of acquittal, alleging that the proof is insufficient to prove that it was Joel Guy who had committed these crimes, specifically as to counts 4 and 5, charging felony murder during the perpetration of a theft. It looks like the only thing that they're alleging is that perhaps he had made credit card transactions. Even the evidence on that wasn't very strong, but that he had made credit card transactions. That is not a theft. That is fraudulent use of a credit card. So the way that he is indicted, we believe, is insufficient to prove felony murder by theft, counts 4 and 5. Count 6 and 7, abuse of a corpse. The state has not met their burden that this was without legal
I can see where they're
Um,
coming from that.
They have not shown
Yeah.
what the legal standards are or that this
I think it's a good
violation
move.
of those. So we
Yeah.
believe that they have not met their burden on count 6 and 7.
Thank you, sir. General, your response
With
as to
respect to the felony murder counts, we believe that it is properly charged, Your Honor, please. I would further point out that the property of Joel and Lisa Guy was found in the defendant's, the room where he was staying, their medications, and other articles. So that's all I have to say on that point. With respect to the abuse of corpse argument, I just, absolutely disagree with Mr. Halstead's characterization of the state's proof on that.
All right, thank you. All right, when the defense makes a motion for judgment of acquittal under Rule 29 of the Tennessee Rules of Criminal Procedure, the court has to look at the evidence that has been presented up to that point in the light most favorable to the state and draw any rational and reasonable inferences in favor of the state's theory of the case. If after doing so, the court cannot determine that the state has met its burden and shown that each element has been proven from the evidence presented, then the court would enter a judgment of acquittal as to that particular count or counts. In this particular indictment, we have 2 counts of first-degree murder, counts 1 and 2. The issue that the defense has argued is the identity of the defendant as the person who has committed those offenses. I don't need to recite all the evidence that has been presented, but there has certainly been a very significant amount pointing to the defendant as the person who perpetrated these offenses, including his blood and DNA left on the weapons that were there at the scene where the bodies received sharp force injuries. There's a lot more circumstantial evidence than just that, but I think that's sufficient alone to get past the judgment of acquittal. And so I'm not going to summarize everything else, but we'll just leave it at that. Regarding the felony murder counts having to do with allegations of theft, there is circumstantial evidence of property belonging to Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy being in that room. That's not the strongest argument. I also think that the use of funds to make purchases on their credit cards, that could be fraudulent use of a credit card, can also be theft. It would qualify under the elements of theft as well, I believe. And so not only the credit cards, but other property, I think, gets past the judgment of acquittal motion. As to abuse of corpse, showing whether or not there's a legal standard, the court will instruct the jury regarding the elements of the offense. And I don't know that the state has to prove something that I think kind of comes with common sense, and that is a general member of the public cannot just dismember bodies in a community. And so to me, that's not really an issue. I guess it
Hashtag
could be proof, even though the
duh.
defendant has no burden of proof that he did have some legal privilege to do this. But I don't think that the state has to bring forward proof showing that Mr. Guy is not a mortician or was working any type of duties pursuant to state statute. So I do think the state has met its burden at this point and will deny the motion for judgment acquittal as to all 7 counts. All right, we do have a 608 notice that's been filed. There's no 609. There's no prior convictions. The state is seeking to impeach Mr. Guy should he testify. I have reviewed the 608 notice regarding specific instances of conduct. I'm going to go through those real quick and give you my ruling before we do Moman. The first one is the state would like to cross-examine the defendant should he choose to testify that on November 28, 2016, he sought treatment at LSU Student Health Center for cuts on his hands. The medical record indicates the defendant reported he was injured when he tumbled down 3 steps carrying breakables on Sunday, and they've attached a copy from the suppression hearing. And then at the hearing on the motion to suppress,
his mom was
stipulated that his hands were injured in an altercation with both parents. I don't think that really is a 608 matter, but I do think the state can inquire of the defendant if he were to testify differently to any of these things about what he had said in the past as a prior inconsistent statement. So I don't think at this point I'm going to consider that proper 608B3, but I certainly suspect if he does testify, the state will be able, if he explains the injuries to his hands in some other way, then these could be used as prior inconsistent statement to impeach him at that point under 613, not 608B3. Number 2, the defendant was deceitful on intake when he characterized himself as a graduate professional degree student when he was in fact not enrolled in a graduate degree program. I do think that the state can, if they can show that is a specific instance of conduct where he's demonstrating deceitful behavior. I do think that his testimony, his credibility as a witness, should he choose to testify, would be highly relevant.
Still identifies as a scientist.
Any incident where he's
science
lying about
experiments.
his
Trust
status
the
around this
science.
time would be highly relevant to that credibility. And I do think that the probative value on that issue
Yeah,
would
he could
outweigh
identify as a
any danger
mortician.
of unfair prejudice.
Hey.
So I would allow the state to inquire on number 2. Number 3, the defendant was
Call me
untruthful
Joel.
when he
I'll
testified at
do
the
your
suppression hearing that
appeal.
he was completely dependent on the LSU Student Healthcare Center for Medical Records. Again, I don't think that comes in under
I'll help.
608B3, but it is a proper avenue for cross-examination. And should he give a
legal
different answer, then I
advice.
think that would open that
No,
testimony up to
absolutely not.
confrontation under 613 as a prior inconsistent statement. And lastly, the defendant was untruthful to Michael McCracken when he lied about his mother's occupation and status as a graduate student. I certainly think the state can ask him if, in fact, that he told Mr. McCracken that his mom was an optometrist. So not 100% sure that's 608B3, but if it is, I think it does. The probative value regarding his credibility does outweigh.
He told people his mom was an
So I think 2 and 3 are proper
optometrist.
to inquire upon.
Yep.
1 and 4, the areas are proper to inquire upon, but the actual statements at the suppression hearing
Like, I don't.
post-suppression hearing
I
Is
don't
that
know.
why?
only be
Is that
opened
why
up
the
should you give a
forensic
different answer,
anthropologist
then it
was
would be
fingering the
potentially
eye holes?
613 statement
Maybe.
for a prior inconsistent statement. All right. So that's what I'm going to rule on that. Mr. Guy, what I want to do now is talk to you about your right to testify. I'm going to swear you in. You're going to remain seated there at the table. Your lawyer's going to ask you a few questions. Just make it clear on the record that you know this decision is completely yours. So if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Mr. Halstead.
Mr. Guy, have we spoken to you about your right to testify? Have we discussed the pros and cons of that?
Yes.
Have we given you our opinions?
Yes.
Do you need any additional time to think about your decision? Do you feel like you've been given enough advice from us and your own thinking to make a decision?
Yes.
And have you made a decision?
Yes.
And what is that?
All right. And you do understand if you wanted to, regardless of what your attorneys
No.
advise you, that you certainly could. That decision is completely yours. You understand
Good
that, Mr. Guy?
decision, sir. Good
And so it's
decision.
your decision after being informed.
No, it
discussing
isn't.
this
I
with
wanted
your
to
attorneys
listen to him
Well,
talk.
I mean,
Is that correct?
yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. We also have a stipulation that I think we need to enter during the defense proof. Do we have any other proof, Mr. Halstead?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So what I would suggest we do is go ahead and have our instruction conference, then take a 30-minute break. When we come back, we'll do the defense proof through the stipulation and jump straight into closing arguments. All right. So let's take a look at instructions. I've emailed you one draft. I've been working on them this morning in a little bit more
Okay,
detail.
we're not going to listen to instructions though. Fuck that.
And I'll send this to
So-
you in
Yeah,
just a
no.
moment.
I believe that will be it. Because these are just instructions. Nobody
An
cares to go
evasion
through
or
that.
hiding out.
So yeah,
Pile of blood where he executed his mother.
that's the previous day. We already did that. So yeah, I guess that is it for Mr. Guy for now. Next week we will get into closing arguments, then verdict and sentencing and everything else to wrap this guy up. So yeah, I think
Wrap
that's
this guy up and put a nice bow on top.
well, put a nice bow someplace. We report, you decide where to put the bow. So yeah, I think that nothing's changed. I think he's guilty as hell. They obviously didn't put together any defense whatsoever.
No. I mean, but how could you
So-
really defend him? I mean, unless you did insanity, but even then, that's a
Well,
hard one.
Yeah, well, they were saying originally that it could have been because he was how did they put it? The state didn't prove that it was him unequivocally. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't. That's a hard sell for me. But, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
Brock,
know how
you
much
got
you charge.
you got cuts on your hands, like.
Right. So yeah, no, I think that. I mean, there's no question in my mind. I think he did it. So,
The list?
no, that's understatement of the century. How long did the jury deliberate? They deliberated in, I think, for 2 hours the same evening. Went home, came back, and pretty much immediately in the morning gave their verdict. So, just more than likely probably slept on it just so they could, feel special, feel like they did the right thing. So, which I
Maybe get
understand.
free breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, free breakfast, pick up another day's worth of $8 for serving in the jury. Maybe miss
Doesn't it
another
go
day
up
at work.
after one day?
Oh, I don't know. I've never done it. I want to.
I've been on one jury and it was like $6 the first day, but then after that they raised it some.
Huh.
I don't like from 6 to like 12 or something, I think it was. I don't remember, but I know one day, at least in Texas, you get like 6 or 8, but then the next day and any day after that you get more.
Huh.
So
They should have stuck to their identity defense throughout the whole trial. They didn't have a defense the whole fucking trial.
no. They tried, but not much you can do with that.
Never mind. Start thinking about the next murder. Mondays with me. Yeah. I'll put up a poll. And we'll see who we're going to next. We have a couple options, so I'll probably put up a members poll. And let you guys pick the next Murder Monday. So, but ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for me tonight. Tomorrow we are going to do Osiris Rex, asteroid return mission, DART from NASA. So Science and Tech Tuesday. It'll be a fun one, and I believe.
And if you're not a member, become one.
Yeah,
I just put the
become
link
one.
in.
Then you can boot in the thingy.
Yeah.
In the poll.
Your vote matters.
Yeah, we determined the difference between pink and salmon today, and Scad was 100% right. Absolutely. Oh shit. Sorry, I had to cough before we. Coup warning on my video. For who the hell knows what I said. I don't think I said anything bad, but oh well. But yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for stopping by after you get done, Dog Mama. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And yeah, we'll see you guys very, very soon. Have a great Labor Day holiday, and good luck at work tomorrow for everybody that has to go back. Have a good night, everybody. Take
Good
care.
night.